So now we have a nice scene set up, but it's lacking something, and that is atmosphere. We want to create an atmosphere for the scene. It's going to make it really dynamic and really sell the look that it's a mountain. So to do that, we're going to be creating a fog volume, which is kind of what everyone loves about Octane, is the easiness of the creating volumes and editing volumes. So we're going to go up here and just go to objects and then Octane fog volume. You can also create a VDV volume, which just means you're going to load in a VBD, which is basically just a cloud or some kind of fog that's not your average just thickness. It's kind of shaped all differently. You can get some crazy VBDs online that are really cool, but we're going to just be sticking with our regular fog. Okay, so first off, we're going to create our fog, and you'll see it's right here. So we're going to pull this fog up and then rotate around, pull it over, and we should see a cube somewhere come up once we get it into our camera view, pulling it around and forward. Oh wait, so it looks like it's right about there, so that might be under our mountain. There we go. So you can see right here, so this is our default fog volume. I'll just make this bigger for y'all to see. So this is our default fog volume right here. It comes in this like small square. Depending on your scene, it might be big, or your scene scale, but it comes in this square and it's pretty dense. So the first thing I like to do always, if I'm going to make it bigger, which I am, is take up this voxel size, and that's going to decrease the resolution of the fog, but also keep it from crashing, because the more voxels you have, the more likely you are to crash. And we're going to be working on a bigger scale scene, so we can really crank up our voxel size. Something like this should work. So now that our voxel's cranked up, we can make the fog bigger just by dragging it right here. And if your computer starts to slow down a lot, just take the voxel size and increase it even more. Okay, and now let's zoom out some and up. And we're just gonna, this is gonna be like our base atmosphere, so it's gonna take up a lot of room. So we'll just do this, and then take it out more. Awesome. Okay, so you'll notice our screen went black, and that's because our fog volume is too dense. So if you go over to medium, go down right here, and just take the density, drag it down. And drag it down even more. And then now it is loading right there. So we're gonna adjust this. And okay, so this sometimes does happen. And what we're gonna do is go File, Save. And Octane just crashed, and usually it crashes when you move this viewfinder around, so do be careful about that. We're gonna relaunch Octane, and hopefully the fog volume will behave. Okay, back inside Octane, and now you can see the volume is looking great. I'm gonna go up to the volume and increase the voxel size even more, just to keep it from crashing, and I'm gonna drag this up a little bit. Awesome, so now we can really see our scene, and it's looking so much more realistic with this fog. What I would like to do though is I'm having a little bit, I'm kind of debating whether or not to kind of create a volume right here, and I think I am, just because this mountain in the back, I don't think there's really enough atmosphere around it. It's kind of just too easy to see. So we're gonna go back to objects, fog volume, and we could do it this way, but what I'm gonna do is just take the one that we've already made and just Control C, Control V it, and now we have the same settings as the last one, and it's kind of in the same position already, and just pull it back there, and you can see that it's got a lot more dense back there and a lot more realistic looking. So since this is further away from the camera, what we can actually do is increase the voxel size even more, and then we'll make the fog even bigger to take up more room. And since this is kind of overlapping with another fog, I'm going to turn up the edge feather all the way, pull it forward, and then make it bigger, just to kind of blend the two fogs together even more. Now we're going to go to medium, and we're going to go to density and just drag it up some. Awesome. So it looks a lot more realistic. We have a the scene is more to scale. It looks more to scale because we have this volumetrics going on, kind of playing around with that. So now that we have our volume set up, let's just go over some of the settings of this main volume right here. So let's go down to it. So you have your density, you have your volume step length, and that's just going to make, if you turn that down, it's going to make it more dense as well. You also have absorption, so let's play around with that. We could make it absorb a color, and you'll see if we make it absorb blue, the volume itself turns more blue. We can make it absorb another color that's out of context, like this red, and we get this nice color shift. And you just click on that by going to absorption and clicking right there. But what we're going to do is just change it back. The default is gray, but I like to do white, and I think that plays off a little bit better and looks a little bit more realistic. There's also scattering, so we can go right here and turn that up back to white also. And you can see it just kind of changed our dynamics of the fog. So this scene's pretty heavy, so what we're going to do is just click this render region, and we can just highlight something like this. And now you can see it's rendering this much faster, so we can see it update a lot quicker. So a lot of people ask me, how do you get those God rays? If y'all know what God rays are, that's kind of like when the sunlight or the light just is passing through a volume, a pretty dense volume in a certain way, and you see these streaks of light. Well, you get those by messing with the scattering phase. So if we go up here, you can turn the scattering phase up all the way, and you can see how it really changes how this volume is interacting with the light. You can turn it down and see what it does there. But for this scene, we don't really want any of that. We want to just keep it at 0 because this is a big light source far away. We're not going to be getting really any rays from this source of light. So I like to just turn it, for a scene like this, I just keep it at the default. But do know that is how you get God rays. And to get God rays, you got to have a light source. You're going to have to play around with that light source and make it from one point. And if you have multiple light sources from multiple points, you won't really get that effect as much. So now that we've kind of played around the fog a little bit, let's take the lighting and let's move it around to make this more realistic of a scene. And I really do like these dramatic shadows. And we'll take the light back here in our front light and kind of just change this as well. And we'll rotate it and give it a nice little edge. Then we'll take this other light and we're just gonna mess around with the lighting a little bit. Like I said, I like to mess around with lighting a lot, and you can get some really cool looks and really shape your scene. Awesome. So then we'll rotate this light and kind of just backlight the mountains just a little bit. Then we'll take this front light and make it slightly bigger. So the shadows are, when we make the light bigger, the shadows are going to be longer and it's going to look more realistic. So you can see that right here. This is a really nice look. I like this a lot. So now that we've messed with the fog and the lighting, we're going to be moving on and kind of making this render a little bit more dynamic and interesting, because it looks really nice right now, but it's lacking some stuff. So we'll be moving on to that. Okay, so we're going to just polish up this render real quick. And this could also have gone under the material section, but I'm going to be messing with the fog a little bit more, so I decided to leave it under the fog section. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a shader under Octane, and we're going to do an Octane material, and then we're going to create a cylinder, and we're going to go for that classic Beeple look that he does sometimes, and a lot of artists do. So we're going to have this cylinder, and then we're going to drop this on top of it. And now we're going to go to the emission and select black body emission. And then we're going to wait for our Octane to update a little bit. It's going to take a while for it to calculate this. We can kind of just help it by punching the calculate button right there. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. And let's take the cylinder and move it over some. So we're going to push this cylinder into our camera view. Another thing with fog is you can go up here and select these two, and you can turn it off in your viewport so you can see your scene, but keep it in Cinema 4D down here. Awesome. So we have our cylinder and we have our Octane emission on it. Let's go into black body emission and just turn the power up. And it took a while. It took a lot actually to turn this up. So the default, it was kind of just barely glowing, and now we have this really bright surface. What we're going to do is just scale the cylinder down. We'll take the radius, make it smaller. We'll change the radius to something like 1, looks really cool, and then we'll rotate it. So when you add a bunch of light like this inside of a fog volume, you are going to be getting a lot more noise and stuff, so you'll be turning up your sample rate. So keep that in mind as well. Just the more light in the volume, the more it's going to take to calculate everything. This is a cool look. Very interesting. So there's multiple things we could do here. I have this idea of like running bands of light through the mountain or some sort, something pretty abstract that I would like to do. So we're gonna be doing something like that, and what we could do is hand place all of these bands through the mountain. But I don't like that idea because that's time consuming, and if I wanted to change something later, I'd have to redo it all. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a fast workflow cheat like we did with the spheres. We're gonna go over here and go to cloner and just drag that cylinder under the cloner. So now we have it under the cloner. You can see it's we click the cloner right here. It's totally changed it. It's reset the values back to where they were, and we can just kind of position this. And this is a cool look as well. But the first thing we're gonna do is just go to the cloner settings again. And I always like to do grid array because it gives me the most options in post. And there we go. Look at that. That's a really cool look right there. So now I'm gonna go over some composition helpers, which is right here. Since we're really setting up our final composition, we can go over here, the composition helpers, and turn them on. So like we have grid, diagonal, golden section, and to see them, we're gonna have to go to this top window right here. So now you can see our composition helpers are overlaid. There's the grid, triangles, the golden spiral, and I really like the golden spiral. I think for this scene this is the one we're going to use too. So we'll go over here to golden spiral, and you can kind of move it around by clicking mirror H, mirror V. I think that this is where the focus should be, so we'll do the mirror H, and this is where our light is coming from anyway, so that's a good starting point. So we'll take this, and what we'll do is we'll just go to the black body emission, and it's a little too bright for me. I think it's adding too much to the scene. So let's first cool the light off and see how that looks. That's really cool. We can warm it up too, and I like that look a lot. So I think that's what we'll stick with at the beginning. There's a nice contrast of light here. Go into the black body emission and kind of just change the power a little bit. So something like that. That looks cool, but the light doesn't look really powerful enough. Like you would expect it to be brighter. If you're looking at it, there'd be slight glow. So what we're going to do is add that glow in the post processing. We'll just take our bloom and we can just increase it some to something like, you can drag it around and mess around with the settings, but something like that might work well. And what we're going to do also is back these lights off a bit around the corner. So we'll take out of this view, go back into this view, take the lights, which should be right here. So this is our first light. Let's turn it off, see what it's adding to the scene. So this light's doing a lot. What we'll do is we'll take it over here, rotate it a bit. We're gonna backlight everything slightly with this light, and that looks really nice right there. Then we'll transform it around through the fog volume. So by punching E, going over, and then we're gonna rotate it some. So this is a cool use of light. It's kind of telling a story. There's something going on back here, and what we'll do is just take it up a little bit and then rotate it some, make it a little bit bigger. Then we're gonna rotate it forward some. Really just trying to get that look. We're trying to get a little bit onto our scene, but not too much. All right, that's a nice look. And then finally we'll go up to this light, and then we'll take the visibility and uncheck camera, uncheck shadow, go to light settings, probably drag the power up just a little bit. Okay, really nice. Now we're gonna go to our primary light source right here. And if we take it right there, we're going to take this one that's back here, rotate it, pull it forward and around, and now we're getting a little bit of light on this scene. And we're just going to pull the light around a little bit and trying to just really set up our composition here. So it's all the way down here. Sometimes you have to move your perspective around to see the light correctly. Okay, great. So now we have the scene lit, and this is a way too bright of a light. So what we'll do is take the power, just turn it down. Wrong light source. Take the power, turn it down a little bit. just enough to kind of fill in the edges right here. Okay, it's looking really nice. So now that we have that calculated, we can go back to this and change the power of these lights a little bit higher to something like that. Go to the cylinder and go to radius, and we're gonna do radius of 0.5. See how that looks. Okay, we're gonna go down to 0.3. And now we're gonna go down to 0.2. We're just actually 0.1. Nice. Okay, so this is having some trouble calculating it. So what we'll do is do this render region and just see what the light looks like. Awesome. Now we'll go to our camera settings, and then we'll take the bloom up just a little bit more. Something like that. Uncheck it and see how this looks. So this is heavy. So what you could do if you're just trying to set everything up, you could uncheck the fog. I'm gonna leave it on though because it's playing a pretty big role in everything. So now we have these circles floating around and this light right here. We're gonna just clean it up a bit. So we're gonna take this cloner, drag the circles, whoops, wrong cloner. We're gonna take this cloner right here and then just drag the circles forward some in this way. And like I said, this is a very procedural way, so you can kind of just, let's say there's not quite enough circles, so let's go to the cloner and just change the count to 3, from 3 to 4, and then from 2 to 3. And now we have a bunch more circles in our scene, and you can kind of see them right here. That looks really cool. And this is a very abstract render, but nevertheless it kind of just shows you what you could do. We could also take this light, this cloner of lights right here, the cylinder, go over to the cloner and then change the first count to like 1 and this count to 1 as well. And now we can change this count that says 3 to something way higher, like 15, then rotate that. Do something like this, rotate it forward, and rotate it around some. We're just messing around with this, seeing if we can get any more looks out of it. Transform it to our camera perspective. And you could do some really cool tricks with this, like a leading line or something. But what we want to do is really just make this the focus. So we'll pull it up some and pull it forward and around. And let's rotate this. That looks really interesting right there. And then we'll take this down. But I'd like to see is it kind of pass through the mountain into the other side. So let's see if we can't get a look like that. Okay, and we're gonna, for that to happen, we're gonna take the cylinder's height and just go way up with it, so that it will pass all the way through the mountain. Something like this. Awesome. Go over to the cloner, transform it some. There we go. That's really what we're looking for, is that continuity. Awesome. So now let's go to the black body mission. Because we changed the size of the surface area of the cylinder, the mission changed also. So we'll go here and then we'll just go to the power and just turn it up some. This is a cool look as well. We can also play around with this going towards the camera. And y'all's looks are gonna look totally different, and just go, I just encourage you to experiment with it some and get some cool looks out of it. That's really nice, but I really want it coming from the other side of the camera. This looks like a futuristic like rail system. So we're almost there. We have these like crazy leading lines going into the mountain, and we have like these really nice spheres, but we're really just lacking a subject. This is really capturing the attention, so we kind of want to play around with it and see if we can't not get something that it's leading towards. So we're going to take this, just transform it down a bit, scale it up, or transform it up too. Oh, sweet. So now we have it like going straight forward. Your eyes are just directly looking down these lines to this mountain. So what we're gonna do is we could just try to do some kind of abstract shape. So let's do this platonic. I don't even know how to pronounce that, to be honest. Scale it up and over. See if we can't get this on that rail system itself. Yeah, just transform it around some. And this is just my process, guys. I kind of like to get to a certain point and then just experiment around and see what we can get in the scene. It's changed a lot, but we're getting some nice looks out of it. So what I'm gonna do is create a I'm just gonna copy this emission for now and drop it on the cube so I can see it better. Okay, so it's been right there the whole time. That's great. Okay, so we'll have it right there. Let's go ahead and turn it off, and then we'll create another shader, and then we'll do like a metallic look on this itself. Awesome. Okay, so now we'll go here and go to diffuse and go to metallic and see what that gives us. Okay, great. So now it's reflecting that light, and we're gonna render this region faster. Let's turn off the volume for now. We're calculating the light a lot faster. It's a really, really cool look right there. It's very interesting. Maybe we went with something that's a little too complex. We could go with a pyramid, sphere thing. What we'll do is we'll take this sphere. Okay, this is what we'll do, guys. To get the attention drawn onto it, we'll take this, I think it's called a tortle. I don't know. Gosh, that's not how you pronounce it. Didn't quite see what it's called. Let's see. A torus. A torus. We'll take this torus. Tortle. We'll take the torus and then drag it up and around our object. And you can see we're not doing any complex modeling or anything. We're just dealing with basic shapes here. And they still give you really cool looks. Nice. Okay, so we have this around our model. And then what we'll do is scale it down some. Not too much. Awesome. Then we're gonna just copy that emission we did earlier and put it around it and see how that looks. Ooh, very cool. Okay, so let's transform this kind of like at an angle. Okay, let's turn back on the, well, first what we'll do is take this emission material and just, we're going to scale that down a lot more. So go to black body emission, you just go to the power, tone it down, it's a little too much. Then we're going to go to temperature and we're going to make it total opposite, something like that. Perhaps we could go into the node editor and just connect the RGB spectrum into the texture node, like so. And then we'll go into the RGB spectrum itself, and we're gonna just select like a cooler blue color. Ooh, that's really nice. I like that contrast in there. The contrast to color contrast is one of my favorite things. So I noticed that we're out of focus. Let's go ahead and pick focus to this object right here. There we go. And then we're just gonna move this around to kind of make it fit around this torus, or we're moving the torus around the pin. I don't know how to pronounce that. We're moving this around here, just getting a look. And then what we're gonna do is create another light, octane area light, move it up, rotate it around, and we're just gonna backlight this this pin. You know, I'm just gonna call it the subject. We're gonna backlight this subject. Really nice. Okay, we're gonna go here, turn off camera visibility. We can actually see what's going on. Okay, nice. So we're getting this really bright look right here. We might scale this up some and then rotate it. And then what we'll do is go to this light and then just change the power down a lot more, just so our subject's barely lit. Let's go ahead and turn on the volumes again, and then we'll just clean up the scene some. And then we'll go over to this metallic material, and we'll try a glossy surface because it's not really standing out all the way. Let's go to the roughness, drag it up just a little bit. We can try out metallic again, go the roughness as well, and just pull it up on this metallic material. And it's going to catch a lot more light. You can also add scratches and stuff, or even make the material more advanced by going to this black noise right here and just plugging this into, we plug into the diffuse. And now the surface will be a little bit more uneven, and then you can change the scale of the noise to, you know, further make this surface more dynamic of this material. Alright, this is a pretty cool look, very abstract, and there's so many directions this could go. I could mess around with this scene for hours, but I kind of just went over everything that I wanted to go over. We can, real quick, since we're on the volume topic itself, I can show you. Let's turn off the front one, the back one. Let's see which one. Alright, so we're gonna mess with this front one right here. We can shake the scattering, and I'll turn the back one back on just so it's not so bright back there. We can take the scattering of this light, or of this volume right here, and go to scattering phase and just mess around with it. It'll give you different looks for your light. Since we have light so close to the camera, you'll see we'll get some crazy stuff going on. I actually have never seen a look like this before, so that's really interesting how just the light will react with the volume. See, we'll render our subject. Whoops. Okay, so what happened was we clicked the focus. What happens when you click focus in a fog volume is it focuses on the volume itself. So you want to turn those volumes off. Then we're going to click focus, and then just click it again, and then we can click our subject, and then unclick the focus, and then go to the volumes and turn it back on. So if you're trying to focus with a volume on, you got to turn that volume off. And this is a pretty good place to conclude. I pretty much covered all the basics on volume, using volumes, and then we'll be kind of covering more advanced things in the render sections, where I just go over a couple of daily renders that I've done. And hopefully y'all learned a lot from this topic. Volumes are really fun to mess with, but they're also kind of dangerous. That can cause your computer to crash like mine did earlier. So be careful. Remember, if you're getting a lot of trouble, turn your voxel size up all the way, and then also if you want your volumes to blend better, you can turn up the edge feather. Okay guys, so that concludes the volume section